Thanks for supporting the channel by clicking the links in the description box. And thank you so much for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And now let's get into this podversation. Hey, what's up guys? We're gonna have a podversation about Kim and Kanye. Now, it's being reported that Kim is preparing to file for divorce, but there's been no actual filing as of yet. But People magazine is reporting that she's currently working with a high-profile divorce lawyer, Laura Wasser. But again, she hasn't filed yet. And they've been through a lot in the year 2020, but they've been married for 6 years and reportedly they've been together for 8 years. But we've all seen a lot of the things in the news in the past year with Kanye. One, he was running for president. He, before that, was a staunch Trump supporter, and nothing wrong if somebody wants to support a candidate that they feel is who they would want to see in office. But it's the way that it was done. He had a meetup in the office that was on video, and it just made him honestly look a bit crazy. And a lot of people question his motives and question his mindset and like what is really going on with this guy. But before that, he started getting more into the religion and started doing the Sunday services. And then he had a church tour where he was going to different high-profile churches. One of the highest high-profile churches that he visited was Joel Osteen's church in Houston, Texas. And that was a major thing that happened at that church. And he had his choir perform. He spoke. And it wasn't really clear if Kim was actually there to support him in the audience, but it was reported that she was there in the back, I guess, if they have a back, because it's like a huge stadium that Joel Osteen has where he holds his services, or we should say did hold his services before the pandemic of 2020 hit and a lot of churches had to close down. But a sources told People magazine that he knows that she's done and he's just pretty much waiting for her to file. But they have 4 kids together, and a lot of people are already seeing this happening anyway. Nobody really saw this as a marriage that was going to last the test of time or last to the end of time. And a lot of people feel like, well, you know what? She's done with him. She doesn't really need him. But I also, in my opinion, believe that he's been done with her. Now I'm going to play a little clip. This is from one of the episodes of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And this was during the time when he was really getting into his quote unquote calling and letting go of that rap persona that he had and getting more into the religion and getting into his stance with being a person who walks with Jesus.
You're not into me wearing a tight dress.
You are my wife, and it affects me when pictures are too sexy.
Of course, it's like a formal underwear. It's hot. It's like, it's hot for who though?
So like the night before the Met, you're gonna come in here and say that you're not into a corset bun.
I just feel like I've just went through this transition where from being a rapper, like looking at all these girls and looking at my wife, like, oh, my girl needs to be just like the other girls, showing her body off, showing this, showing that. And I didn't realize that that was affecting like my soul and my spirit as someone that's married and loved and the father of like now with about to be 4 kids.
Kim, shut that down real quick.
You built me up to be this like sexy person and confidence and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And just because you're on a journey and you're on your transformation doesn't mean that I'm in the same spot with you.
All right, so, after playing that clip, you can hear that he was already letting her know that, look, I am walking a different walk right now. And the way you carry yourself, it's not a good look for me. But Kim is never going to be about anybody else but Kim. I don't care. She was married to Kanye for 30 years. If it came to a point in their marriage where it was not going to be beneficial to her anymore, she is not going to stick around, because that's just not what they do in that clan. The Kardashian clan is what I'm talking about. They do what is beneficial for them. And at this space and time in her life, being with Kanye is more of a liability to her than him being an actual asset, even though he is reportedly a billionaire. She is worth about 700 million herself in her own right, and her empire continues to grow. She's sold 20% of her KKW brand for 200 million, and her brand is just going to continue to grow unless something drastic happens, which I don't really see happening, because it doesn't seem like anything really happens to these people in this Kardashian clan. They just continue to grow, even though there are a lot of people who don't like them. There's just a whole lot more people who like them and see them as something that is worthy, an asset. So him being on this walk of following Jesus, him suffering through the coronavirus, which she stated that he had it earlier on in the pandemic, before a whole lot of people here in the United States really knew what it was. She said she was in the home alone with him and their 4 children, trying to take care of him. And then he had that rally when he was announcing that he was running for president, and he said a lot of things, blurted out a lot of things about Kim thinking about having an abortion when she was pregnant with their first child, and just a lot of other things. And he was not being looked at in a good light, and she doesn't like anybody to make her look bad, period. She previously was married to Chris Humphries, who is a basketball player, and that marriage lasted for 72 days. And I did watch some of that show where Kim and her sister Courtney, I believe it was called Kim and Courtney Take New York or something like that. And the only reason why I watched some of that was because that was during the time when she got married to this guy, and then like 72 days later they're getting a divorce, and that played out on that show. So I was just curious. I wanted to see the breakdown of what it was. And that guy, he pretty much would call her out. He didn't, even though I believe he actually did really love her. I don't think he would have married her if he didn't really love her. Not saying it wasn't a little bit of superficiality there in that relationship, but he didn't play into her persona. He just viewed her as, you're just the woman that I love. You're the woman that I am, marrying, and we're going to settle down, have some kids, move out to the Midwest someday and settle down. And she was like, I'm not doing that. Like, that's not who I am. That's not what I'm going to be. And he was like, once you have some kids and settle down out, where we're going to live, nobody's really going to care about you. And she was offended by that.
I'm never moving to Minnesota. Ever.
I mean, we already talked about this. You said when I'm done playing, I get to choose half the year, you choose the other half of the year.
How am I going to have my career and live in Minnesota?
Look at Chloe.
What about Chloe? Like, why are you comparing me to Chloe?
Chloe's slowed down a little bit for her man, and she doesn't even have kids. Think about what she's going to do when she has kids.
I'm just saying I want to raise my kids and live in LA. That's where I'm from. That's all I know.
Maybe by the time you have kids and they're in school and all that, like, no one will probably care about you. Let's be honest.
With what Kanye is doing now, living out in Wyoming, living out on his thousands of acres, or how many acres he owns out there, and he's not out in LA, and he's doing his Jesus thing. She came out and said, just because you're on a journey doesn't mean that I'm on that same journey with you. And if you're going to be in a relationship and married to somebody, not saying you're not going to have your own preferences and your own desires, but if you're not going to come together to be a unit, it's not going to work. So we all knew that this was not going to last forever. Unfortunately, they have 4 kids in this situation. We'll see how this plays out. No filing has happened yet, and they have reportedly been seeking therapy and counseling as well, but I don't think that Kim really wants to make this work. I really believe she's just checked out of it, and it is reported that they are living separate lives, separated, and so we'll see what happens. But anyway, guys, that is what is being reported, and I'm just being beautifully honest about it. I don't believe that they're going to work it out, even if they do make a few attempts to try to save it. I just believe that the marriage is done. But I really would love to know what you guys think about it in the comment section, so please let me know your thoughts. And guys, thank you so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And until the next video, I'm just being beautifully honest.